I'm Mr. Ginters, and I'm representing the Riga Stradiņš University in Latvia, European Union, which is a leading medical school in our region. And every once in a while we come to Sri Lanka to tell about the university and to try to get some students interested in the medical program that we have.
Okay. If you can tell us about it?
Yeah, so Latvia is actually a very small country. And geographically, I believe it's actually bigger than Sri Lanka, but because of the sort of European way, we do have much less people. So the total population is around 2 million people only. So Sri Lanka is what, 30 million something. So we have only 2 million inhabitants in Latvia. So it's a small country, but it's one of the European Union countries, which is actually very important because that allows students to undergo practical training and actually get work within the European Union, which is 28 different countries. So it's easy that way. Geographically, we have 4 neighboring countries. We have Lithuania, Estonia, Russia, and Belarus. So 4 countries in total. And I mean, Europe is not very far. I mean, to go to Germany, it takes you 2 hours. To go to Sweden, it takes you 1 hour, basically. And well, Sri Lanka is a bit further away from us, so it's probably 8,000 kilometers, something like that. But flight connections are actually relatively easy because you can go from Colombo to Emirates, and from Emirates you can go to Germany, and from Germany to Latvia. It's just, as I said, 2 hours. Very easy. Much less people. So the total population is around 2 million people only. So Sri Lanka is what, 30 million something. So we have only 2 million inhabitants in Latvia. So it's a small country, but it's one of the European Union countries, which is actually very important because that allows students to undergo practical training and actually get work within the European Union, which is 28 different countries. So it's easy that way. Geographically, we have 4 neighboring countries. We have Lithuania, Estonia, Russia, and Belarus. So 4 countries in total. And I mean, Europe is not very far. I mean, to go to Germany, it takes you 2 hours. To go to Sweden, it takes you 1 hour, basically. And well, Sri Lanka is a bit further away from us, so it's probably 8,000 kilometers, something like that. But flight connections are actually relatively easy because you can go from Colombo to Emirates, and from Emirates you can go to Germany, and from Germany to Latvia. It's just, as I said, 2 hours. Very easy. Seasons. So distinctive different seasons. I mean, winter, summer, spring, and fall. Of course, what students, especially from Sri Lanka, have to get used to is the winter weather, because I mean, these temperatures you have here are completely not typical with us. In summer, we don't have temperatures above 30 degrees, very rare. Usually it's 20, 25, 28 maybe, but 30 is quite tough on us because again we have a sea quite close to the city, so it's humid. In winter, of course, the temperatures are below 0, so -5, -10, occasionally even -20 can be there. But as both our Sri Lankan students, all our Sri Lankan students say, it's not the weather. Of course, it takes some getting used to. That's normal. But at the same time, it's how you prepare for it. If you have proper boots, proper jackets, proper gloves, scarves, all of that we wear in winter, I mean, you will be just fine. It's not the coldest country in the world, no. It's actually, I get very specific, relatively similar to some other countries in the region. Let's say Lithuania, Estonia, our neighboring countries, we have a similar culture. Latvians are actually quite passionate about singing and dancing, so national traditional folk dance is very popular. Academic choirs, folk choirs, it's all very very typical for Latvians to do. Yeah, it's a European culture, so again, a lot of ties, a lot of links to Western European countries, especially Germany, because of common history. Also sometimes with Russia, with Russian-speaking countries, because we used to be in one country for 50 years. So yeah, it's getting more a mixture of things, but we still have our own distinctive sort of national culture that comes from more than 1,000 years ago. Politically, Latvia is actually a very peaceful country. It's a parliamentary democracy. So we do elect our parliament. There is a cabinet of ministers. There is a president. And I mean, it's a very peaceful country. small, peaceful European. Again, in order to become a European Union country, you have to invest a lot. You have to do a lot. You have to basically raise your standard of living closer to the Western European countries, and we have managed to do that. Otherwise, we wouldn't be in this network. So I believe the country has developed quite well over the last 25 years. And occasionally we have the question from students from this region how safe it is. Well, actually, Latvia is a very safe country. Now, of course, it depends on what you do. If you're taking risks, if you are being reckless, I mean, you can get in trouble, as in any major city in the world, basically. But students, especially medical students, they have to study quite hard. They have to devote most of their time for studies. So you don't have that much exposure to nightlife and alcohol and all of that. It's your own responsibility if you do that. If you don't, you will be fine. Our students basically have a number of services that the university provides. First of all, they do indeed get student cards, which are more than just a plastic card. With those, you can actually use university services, any services at all. And students have direct access to everything that we offer. You know, once you become our student, you get a login and a password, and with that, you can basically access all the systems, everything. For example, you don't have to pay anything for the books; those are provided in the library. You don't have to pay anything for lectures, tutorials, anything, because all the materials, all the presentations, everything is online. And then it's up to you to decide what to do. If you want to print things and read them in paper form, you can do that. If you're fine reading, on your tablet, on your device, fine, do that. So I mean, in university, the good thing is that there are no hidden costs, because some universities might have a lower tuition fee, but then they sort of forget to tell you that you will be having to pay for this and for that. We don't do it that way, you know. What you pay for is what you get. Your study process is entirely free, except for some very, very general things, like we ask students actually to buy only two things before they come. One thing is Anatomy Atlas, which is basically the most important book in medicine, the Bible of medicine, basically, and the white overcoat. Yeah, so that again, because when you start working, when you start practicing in the labs, even in the first semester, you already have to wear the white overcoats. We're preparing you to be a medical doctor. We're preparing you to even look like a medical doctor, you know. So all of that we provide. On top of that, university provides also a public transport card, which students don't have to buy. We arrange it for them. Then, of course, when you use the public transport, you have to upload money on the card. That's your own budget. But you don't. Again, there are many services that you don't have to waste your time on. We prepared for you one card or another, or one service or another, so that you again can devote most of your time to your studies. Well, Latvia is actually, as I said, a very small country. So for a small country, it's tough to say what's absolutely unique and what is like nobody else has. At the same time, I mean, local people have, because of history, again, we have influences from all sorts of different cultures. That's why an average Latvian definitely speaks at least 3 languages, which is again is common to people from this region. But we do speak Latvian, Russian, English. A lot of people speak German. French and Spanish is becoming more popular. So we're getting very much open to the world, and that is definitely an advantage. Also, culturally, we have a mixture of cultures coming in, and still we have managed to preserve our own culture and our own environment. One of the things definitely is, because it's a Nordic country, again, it can be quite exotic for people coming from this region. I mean, how it looks, how it feels, the weather and all of that. At the same time, we have beautiful nature. I mean, like 50% of the territory of the country is covered by forests. So a lot of greenery, a lot of options to go into the nature, you know, to have fun, to relax, just to clear your head. We do have very nice sandy beaches. Again, you know, for Sri Lankans, that's not unusual. That's a typical thing here and almost everywhere. But also we're proud of that, because in the world there are many countries that don't have direct access to the sea. So that is one of the things. I mean, it's this and that. If you ask if it's the most unique country in the world, probably not. I mean, again, it's very small, very, very tiny. At the same time, we do have a lot of things to offer to students when they come.
Do
Yes, our MD program provides exposure to European Union countries. So in any of those countries, students can undergo their practice, they can continue their studies, they can work without any restrictions. That is the good point in having a European diploma, which we provide, because let's say if you study in some other country, let's say in Russia, Ukraine, Georgia, for example, you have to undergo a very lengthy and complicated verification process of your education. Within Europe, with European diploma, there's no such thing. You go to any country of your interest, you register there, and actually that country is not allowed to put any restrictions because you have a guaranteed European diploma. Of course, when you continue your studies in Europe, what students have to remember is that in Europe, every single country speaks a different language. So if you want to go to Germany, you should be learning German. If you want to go to Sweden, you should be learning Swedish, and so on and so forth. We also do provide our own language training, so that again, when students have exposure to patients, they can at least communicate on a decent level, on conversational level. So students learn Latvian language for 3 semesters. And after that, if they want to even perfect their language even more, they can do that both at the university or privately or whatever is their way, which is easier for them. Riga Stradiņš University is a medical university at its core. We have always been a medical school first and then everything else. Nowadays it has changed into a University of Health Sciences. So we provide not only medical training, we provide dentistry, pharmacy, nursing, rehabilitation, physiotherapy, occupational therapy, all sorts of different programs that we offer. All in all, there are 65 programs. The university has been there for 67 years now, so it was founded in 1950, and the total number of students right now is about 8,500. Again, not a lot, but it has to do with the speciality of the university, that it is specializing in health sciences. What is very good about our university is that almost 25% of our students are international, so you get exposure to 50 different countries, even more religions, even more languages, even more culture. So again, it's a very dynamic, very vibrant, very multicultural environment.
What's the ranking for us?
Yeah. Well, our university is unfortunately too small to be ranked, and we're always concentrating on being a teaching university rather than scientifically oriented university, and that is one of the things that we lack in the world rankings, this scientific activity. There is a science department, and they do actually have some projects and some things that they do. At the same time, it's not that big, it's not that well developed, because it's always been a teaching university first. So we concentrate mostly on our students. In Latvia, of course, the university is ranked, and it's actually #1 in different rankings. For example, there's a European EU multi-rank, and that in our country we're #1. Biggest university. Yeah, the university, of course, is recognized in our country. Since we joined the European Union, it's also recognized everywhere in Europe, in European Union, and on top of that, in many other countries. For example, just recently we renewed our registration with Sri Lankan Medical Council of India. We are recognized in US, in Canada, and Australia. So all big countries basically are covered, and we're working on daily basis on even expanding that network. But again, students who study with us, they look for English-speaking countries. So mostly they would be looking at Australia, US, Canada, UK, maybe Ireland. So those are the destinations where students usually plan to go. So, and since the recognition is there, again, it's relatively easy. So students, when in terms of living, accommodation, and all of that, they basically have to count on at least 500 to 600 euros per month on their daily expenditures. For example, rent can be about 200 euros, 250 euros. Of course, you have to buy food, you have to save some money for transport, leisure activities, movies, everything. So I would say with 600 euros you will be pretty well covered per month, that is. The university entry requirements are actually very student orientated. Because we don't ask for any specific admission tests, we don't ask for any specific language training for Sri Lankan students, because you know how we see Sri Lanka and how we Sri Lankans see Sri Lankan students is that it is an English-speaking country. So, for example, you never have to prove your English skills. We take your A-level results as the indication of how good you are. We trust the Sri Lankan educational system, so because of that there are no, again, extra things you need to do. The most important subjects for us will always be biology, chemistry and English. If you have good or excellent grades in those, again, that would be A and B. It's relatively easy to apply for the university. It's much tougher to withstand the competition, and it's even tougher to study, you know, because the workload in medical studies is quite extensive. Our university has 2 intakes per year, so basically students start their studies every semester. So the most popular intake, of course, is September, as usually when the study year starts, but exactly the same is also our intake in February. There's no difference, students basically start later. Why we have that is because in some countries, for example, it's impossible for students to get their educational documents within our deadlines. So if that happens, we unfortunately have to offer them the next admission. But then again, it's a good thing because in many medical universities in Europe, you don't have this other option. You only can start in September. With us, no. You can also start in February. And there's no difference. It doesn't mean that February students are weaker or something. No, it's just because university tries to help students to apply when they can. Or there can be situations when when something happens. I mean, you can have an injury. There can be a situation in the family. Anything can go wrong at a time. So we actually have this extended help of another admission if you want to do that. Scholarships, actually a number of those. The most popular and actually the one that I would definitely suggest for Sri Lankan students is a so-called admission scholarship, which in our case basically is for students from India and Sri Lanka. And well, from Asian countries as well, but we have very few students applying from those countries. So generally it is Indians and Sri Lankans taking this scholarship. The scholarship provides 20% discount from your first year's tuition fee. And the only criteria to apply for that scholarship is early application. So if you are one of the first 20 students from this region applying to the university, we guarantee the scholarship in the first year. After that, second, third, fourth, fifth, and even sixth year, you can apply for different scholarships that the university provides. For example, a very good option is the so-called academic excellence scholarship, which means that you have to be having very good average grade, and by that you get a scholarship. In our country, the grading system is 0 to 10, 10 being the highest grade. So if you have a grade point average of 8 to 8.5, you can get 20% discount. 8.5 to 9, 25% discount. 9 and above, which again you have to be excellent in every single subject, you can get even 30% off. So that is one of the scholarships students really enjoy to have, because being a good student counts. Being a good student actually provides you the opportunity to get some money back from the university. Also, we highly appreciate loyalty of the students, which means that if you have studied 5 years with us without any interruptions, without any failings of the semester or something like that, we do offer a discount for the last year of studies. So in the 6th year of studies, you can get 2,000 euros off just by being with us previous 5 years. So if you show loyalty to us, we show loyalty to you by giving you this discount. A medical degree, medical doctor degree program basically runs for 6 years. The difference between MBBS and MD is that MD includes also the internship that usually follows in the 5 years of MBBS. And in our case, how we break down the program is that the first 2 years are mostly theoretical. So in the first 2 years, you learn all the basics that you will need for the rest of your life, basically. You study anatomy, physiology, embryology, histology, biology, all of these basic medical subjects. Because again, we believe that you cannot have exposure to patients, to practical things without having the theory. So the first 2 years are actually the toughest, as students always acknowledge. Now, because let's say anatomy, which is only one subject, takes about half of your time. Only one subject, because that's that important. You have to basically know the human body in and out, all the systems, all the bones, all the nerves, all the structures, all the Latin terms. So it takes some time to put it all in your head, and it's basically learning by heart. So students find it tough, but then again, there's no other way around it, because well, medical studies are not supposed to be easy. That is one of the most extensive, most time-consuming education you can get. That is, of course, for a reason, because it's nursing that you learn. Students are allowed to take part-time jobs, so 20-hour weeks. Then again, it's forbidden to work in fields where you have to do with clients, because again, you don't have the language skills to do that. But many of our students work, especially in senior years. Of course, the university does not support that, because your primary aim is to study, to undergo practical training and clinical practice. So you might not have that much time to work, especially in the first 2 years when the theoretical part is. After that, I know more and more students take up jobs. Usually, of course, rather simple jobs, because again, you don't have the medical qualification or any other qualification yet. But there is this option. It's allowed by the law, and students actually use it in increasing numbers. Yes, internship is actually, again, there's a difference between our university and some others, because internship is actually included in your program. So it's not like you will be having 5 years of medical training and then the 6th year is internship. No, we don't do it that way. Your internship actually, the very first steps of that starts in the 2nd year. Then even more of that in the 3rd year, even more in the 4th year, 5th year, and 6th year, which means that by the time when you graduate, you have actually taken the internship of total length of about 1 academic year. So students actually don't feel it. They take it as a regular study process, but actually it is internship, sort of intertwined within all the other subjects. So you have theory and practice together, and by the time when you finish, it counts that you have taken 1 year internship. Medical insurance is something students have to buy themselves. Again, by Latvian laws, medical insurance has to be there for 1 year. You have to renew it every year. It's actually relatively cheap. For example, to get a medical insurance for first aid, basic primary medical assistance, it would cost you about 50 euros for 1 year. So if of course if there are any pre-planned operations, anything major surgery, something, then you should be buying a better insurance that covers all of those services. But first aid, basic assistance is provided within this 50 euro in insurance.
By the university?
The university actually provides quite a lot, but then again, students do like to choose what to do in their own free time themselves. For example, there's a variety of sports you can do. Of course, let's say the university has its own teams, but to be able to get into that team, you have to be quite good in the sports, because our teams are actually participating in national championships, both basketball, volleyball, floorball, some other activities. So for that, you need to have some skill. But all in all, students usually come together and do all sorts of sports. I mean, there's badminton, there's jogging, there's of course gym that students usually go to. On top of that, many different activities that are related to studies even. For example, students have interest groups, where medical students come together and discuss a certain subject of their interest, a certain specific disease or certain specific medical situation or something. So those are actually very popular. Very good thing is 17 different international student organizations, which actually students have themselves organized. The most important of those is International Student Association, which is in a way an umbrella organization for every single international student organization. All of them, or every other organization, is based on nationality. So we have a German Student Association, Dutch, Finnish, Swedish, Norwegian, Asian Society, which is where mostly students from India and Sri Lanka participate. Portuguese, Italian, you name it. I mean, there are 17 different organizations based on student nationality. So that's where you can participate, and that is actually a very good thing because that's why students give back their knowledge, their practical experience. For example, if there's a Sri Lankan student coming for the first semester, of course, a lot of things can be unknown, a lot of things can be unclear. So we usually ask our senior Sri Lankan students, to reach out, to get in touch, to tell how it is, to tell a better picture of the study environment, of the city, of the accommodation facilities, food facilities, everything, so that when students come, they are better prepared for their daily life in Riga. Because again, when you do have to study medical studies, you don't have that much time for everything else. So we try to save your time so that you can again relate to what's important, that you can again study rather than think about some daily chores that you might be running.
Wait, we'll ask the document checklist and
Yeah, and the visa.
a visa.
Yeah. Could you please explain us the visa?
Yeah, getting a visa actually takes some time, and because currently we don't have a proper embassy in Sri Lanka. Because of that, the student documents are usually sent to Beijing. We do have a general consulate in Colombo that operates from Colombo. So they do the paperwork, they do the documentation. At the same time, by law, it has to be done at the proper embassy, which is in Beijing. So students have to send their documents there. Visa procedures usually take up to 2 months. To be realistic, it would be up to 2 months, because there are different procedures to run, different documents to be prepared, different clearances to be received. For example, police clearance and legalization of documents for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Colombo. So a lot of things students have to do. We of course help. We guarantee that we will provide students with invitation to come to Latvia, that we will get in touch with the embassies. We will try to find a better way for students to undergo immigration, but it sometimes takes time. Also, students from Sri Lanka can undergo their immigration in our embassy in New Delhi, in India. The problem there is that if you apply, you have to physically go there. And since your passport is at the embassy, you basically have to stay there for 1 to 2 weeks. Now, our students are not really eager to do that, because if you apply via General Consulate in Colombo, you basically give your documents and you stay at home, And then usually in 2 to 3 weeks, the documents are received and you get your visa. So it's a lengthy process, but most of our students complete it. If you follow a schedule, if you do things systematically, you'll be just fine. On-campus accommodation. We currently have 3 student hostels. They are in different parts of Riga, depending again on where your studies are. If your studies are in the hospital, there is one student hostel next to the hospital. Then there's one close to the university, and another one again in a different part of Riga. So students have to apply for single or double room, depending on what they choose. And if they stay in the hostel, it's actually relatively easy, because again they will be having international students around, especially from this region, because most of our Sri Lankan and Indian students actually stay in our student hostel. Hostel facilities are shared. That is something the students have to remember. They have their own private room, furniture, tables, chairs, fridge, bed, everything is there. But kitchen facilities, toilet facilities, and shower facilities are shared with other students. Usually that is the case. Also, actually, right now we are building a new student hostel, which will be right next to our university building. So it will take you 1 minute to go from the hostel to the university, and there students will have higher quality rooms, which will be first of all mint fresh. Second of all, they will have all the services in their room: kitchen corner, shower facilities, toilet facilities, and completely equipped student room. Of course, on top of that, the entire campus of the university, including student hostels, is completely Wi-Fi free. So you can use your personal devices, you can get in touch with your family, whatever you want to do without any problem.
What are the initial set of documents required to apply to the university?
But then again, as we usually tell them, you're not coming to Riga to submit them, so we will never meet you. What that means is that by your documents, we should be 100% sure why we should take this student rather than somebody else. So everything starts with applying online. Students complete online application on our website. They submit the application, print it out, and that is the first document of your application that you put in the envelope and send to us. After that comes your educational documents. O-levels, A-levels, then recommendation letters. We request for 2 of those to be handed in. Medical reports, a motivation letter or personal statement, passport photos, copies of passport, and a payment slip for €100, which is the application fee. So all of that you have to put together and send to us in paper form. We accept only original documents. So for example, if you get a recommendation letter from a teacher here and it's not signed, we will not accept it. So it's rather strict. All the documents have to be in perfect order. When this initial stage is done, at the later period of application, we request students to prepare the immigration documents, as we call them, which would be a chest x-ray, picture or film together with a doctor's reference. It should be a police clearance from a police office in Sri Lanka, and it should be a bank statement confirming that that particular student has at least €5,000 in his or her bank account, which again is necessary for immigration office to verify if a student can actually have normal, decent life when they come to Riga.
Can students apply?
We have Sri Lankan students for more than 20 years now, and it's always been a tradition. We actually have siblings coming and studying. If I'm not mistaken, we even have 1 or 2 sort of second generation students, if you may say so. So their parents have been studying with us years ago. Now their kids are also applying to the same university. All in all, right now we have about 30 Sri Lankan students, mostly from Colombo and surrounding area, but also from Kandy, from Tamil region of Sri Lanka. So, you know, many students having a pretty diverse community.